In the video today, I will be showing you how to estimate for an extension. To begin with, we will go to the library. This is perhaps one of the most important areas to start with, to ensure that all the pricing for your materials and your labour, of course your plant, subcontract and sundry, are all correctly laid out. First of all, we will go to the materials section. As you may imagine, the materials price book holds all material prices. This means that you will be needing to ensure that any special prices are added in before we begin doing the estimate. You can quickly and easily search in the price book simply by going to the search box in the top left hand corner and typing in the name of whatever you need to look for. By typing the word brick, the software will bring up all the items containing the word brick in the software. And from this, you can make any adjustments as you need. Clearly, that applies to any material. Brick is simply an example. It obviously can apply to absolutely anything, bricks, blocks, you name it. If you need to look for blocks, simply type in the word block, hit enter, and the software will then look for all the blocks found in the software. And of course, this applies to any of the price books. If I go to labour, by clicking on the labour on the left hand side here, we can then look into any labourer that we need to find there. So if you want to look up bricklayers, for example, I once again type in the word brick, and up will come any of the labourers with the word brick in the name. So as you may imagine, once you have entered all the pricing into the software that you need for this particular job, we can then go back to the main dashboard and begin working on the estimate. I do this simply by clicking on dashboard, and a couple of seconds later the software brings up the main dashboard here. I can then begin to create the estimate here for the extension. I go to create new job, and I'm going to quote from a job template. I click through onto job template, and a few seconds later the software will begin the estimating process. So I will choose an extension, as that's what we're doing here. We choose the type of job that we'd like to do. Obviously it's relevant to the particular job that your customer has come to you with. I'll go with an Apex roof single story extension here. I will give the job a name, whatever it may be, and perhaps we can call it Mr. Jones. Obviously this is just an example. It's clearly for a single story extension, and it's the 30th job in this particular instance. I'm going to use the master price book that the software has built in, and I'm going to select a start date for the job, so whenever that may be. I'm going to set it perhaps for early next year, like so, 9th of February next year. I'm going to allow the software to automatically calculate for the job, and we're going to go with an extension specification. In this instance, it is a standard brick and block construction. In the mini specs, I can adjust any of the most important materials that will have a significant cost if you wish, if I'd like here at this point. So you can select any of the bricks, the tiles and so on that you'd like to adjust, but I'm going to leave them as they are. At this point I can also review the profit I would like to make on the overhead and the profit markups, and of course I can adjust the inflation rate. This is particularly important as if the job is perhaps 12 months down the line and the inflation rate is at 5% and the job is around 100,000, it could actually add £5,000 to the job in terms of inflation. So you want to make certain that you get that right, because £5,000 out of your pocket isn't an insignificant amount really, is it? So I hit close once I'm happy there, and then I tell the software to create the job. And a few moments later it will bring up the estimating wizard for me to begin keying in the dimensions and allow me to obviously begin costing for the job. In the new version of EstimatorXpress that we're looking at here, it automatically brings up for you a collection of estimating calculators. These are the calculators that are used to establish the size. Once you're happy with all the selections there, we hit select, and the software will bring you to the main quote template. And from this, we can key in the main dimensions for the single story extension that we're doing here. I'm going to confirm the depth to the extension, so perhaps 4.5 meters here, and the width to the extension here as well. So in terms of the width of the extension, perhaps we can allow 6.5 meters there. So I key that in, like so. And you may notice as I do this and as I click off the boxes, the software is automatically allowing for those costs to be considered. This is because the software knows how to calculate the costs for the job. It knows how to build. It knows how many bricks, how many blocks, how much timber, how much sand, how much concrete, how many tiles, you name it. It's a very clever piece of software, and it's doing that all automatically for you. We are going to allow for plastering. We will allow for decoration. We are going to allow for an internal finish to the external walls. And of course, we can actually go through the rest of the options here and select them as we go along. And as you may note, as I click and add in, the software will add in obviously the costing for the item that I have selected. So I've told software to decorate bases and soffits. So we'll have a little think. It will look at obviously the size of the extension, and it will then cost it into the job for us. I will then scroll down a little and mark each section complete as I complete it. So I have completed the resource specification there. And now I can go into the external walls workbook. So I'll do this by going to the DIMS wizard. I click here like so, and up will become the dimension wizard. When the dimensional wizard appears, the first screen it shows me is all the materials that are being used here in the job. So at this point, I could of course adjust any of the materials. So perhaps the brick being used here is a reclaimed £1.80 facing brick. I select it like so, and that is now being used into the job instead of the £1.20 option that we had. And of course, I can go through this list, adjusting anything as required. I'll next click through onto the General tab, and this will allow me to alter any of the details on the wall. So obviously we can adjust any of the details in terms of perhaps the height of the wall as we require. So perhaps it's 2.5 meters, not 2.4. And because we've previously already entered the length of the walls, the software has already entered that in for us. I can then scroll down a little, and in terms of looking at the wall in terms of its elevation, we can confirm any of the finer details on the wall here. So we can confirm the height of the coursing blocks. We can confirm if the wall is plastered, if there's any areas of the wall that are left unplastered. If we're decorating internally, is the wall skirted, and is the main skirting decorated there as well. So as you'll see, the software is incredibly thorough, and it makes certain that all the costings are made for. This means that everything you do for your client, for your customer, the cost is covered. You're not doing it for free, you're doing it fully and costed fully. I can then click through to the Openings tab, and if there's any openings there that we need to add in, I can quickly and easily click on Add an Opening. I can confirm what it's for. I can confirm the width of the opening there. I can confirm the height of the opening there. And where the opening is. Once I'm happy there, I can click through onto the gables And once again, because the software knows how to build, it's taken the information that we keyed on the first page and it's transferred it across into the information required for the gables, and it's pre-entered that information for us. I'll scroll down a little here, and then I can confirm all the finer details here as well. So I can confirm the width of the gable, the area of the gable itself, the length of the gable, and once again, as with the walls themselves, we can confirm if the wall is plastered, if it's decorated, and so on and so forth. We can confirm the details on the parapet. We can confirm the details on the foundations. So the depth of the foundation, concrete below the side strip. And as you may notice, as I hover over any of the boxes, it gives you a little information and a bit of a tip in terms of what it's doing there for you. So I confirm the foundation depth below side strip, the structural concrete thickness, mass concrete thickness, and so on and so forth. So the software really is asking all the questions that it needs to know from you to do all the costing for the job at hand. It's incredibly thorough. Once we have completed the external walls, we then move on to the flooring. Once again, we go to the dimension wizard here, and we confirm all the details, all the dimensions on the slab wizard, the slab dimension wizard that is. The software pre-completes the information that it knows from the area of the job, so it knows the slabbing needed is 25 meters. The software also comes with what is known as tech tips, which gives you a little advisement of what you're looking at, what you're doing, and some tech labels, so we know what we're looking at. Once again, we confirm the details on the slab itself, so we confirm the thickness of the slab, if there's a damp-proof membrane, if there's an overlap to the said damp-proof membrane, if it's insulated, so obviously if there's insulation to the inside of the slab as well, if there's obviously a length of perimeter insulation, or perimeter insulation even I should say, if there's some reinforcement to the bottom of the slab and obviously the top of the slab, and if of course the slab is actually float finish. And onto the final screen, the software asks you to confirm the plant that is required for this particular job, and you simply confirm the details as required. I hit finish, and now the slab is complete. So I'll mark that as completed, and of course we can continue doing as we are for the entire extension. I will quickly, however, run through the roof here. However, I will not go through all the dimension wizards, simply as the process itself is the same wizard to wizard. The only difference is obviously in terms of what you're estimating for changes a little. So once again, I will go to the dimension wizard and I will confirm all the details on the area of the job that we're estimating. So we can confirm obviously the soffit width there, the first side of the wall thickness, the clear span of the joists between the wall plates, and obviously the second wall there as well. So we confirm all the details. We confirm the timber and the roof strap details there. We confirm obviously the length of the roof here as well. So we confirm the eaves length and the wall thickness required for obviously the main section of the wall away from the wall of the existing house, the depth of the extension. Obviously we confirm all the gable rafters for each end of the wall, the barge boards, the rainwater pipes, and so on and so forth. We confirm the gutter details. So yes, you can even define all the finer details, even things like the pipe fixing centers. the software does go to an extraordinary level of detail. I hit next. I can confirm the tiling and installation information as required, and the roof finish itself. So is the ceiling plastered and is it decorated? Is the underside of the rafters plastered? Is it decorated? And of course, are we priming the soffits, decorating the soffits? And obviously the same for the barge boards and fascias too. I hit finish, and we've now costed for the roof there as well. I hit complete, and now the roof is completed. As I say, I could continue going through all the obviously estimating calculators, but at this point I would imagine that you can see the process that we're following to cost the job down. So what I will do now is I will go through to the build program, and this will allow us to create the Gantt chart for the job itself at hand, so we can plan out the job and see how it'll fit going on into the future. The software has noted here, as you may see, that there's a number of things that we may wish to consider, we may wish to add in the details for. I will say no at the moment, but the principle here itself is the same for all the estimating calculators. So I'm going to say no for now. So the software is now bringing up the build program. But first, before it does that, it asks me to confirm the labourers for the job at hand here. So I can adjust any of the labourers as required. I'm not going to, because the software has already selected what we need, what is required for this job. At this point, I could if I need it. I'll hit next. And obviously it brings up a second page of labourers used in the job here. So I'm going to leave that as it is, like so. And now the software has created the Gantt chart for the job at hand. So I'll hit finish. And now we have our Gantt chart. Now this chart here itself has now planned out the entire job at hand. It knows exactly how long it will take and how long it will last until the job is complete. So we're looking for approximately February the 9th start, all the way through to the end of March for this extension to be completed. I should say the 16th of March, approximately. And the useful thing about this build program, this Gantt chart, it actually is very intelligent. It will allow for the job itself, the software itself, to plan out your order schedules. So it's incredibly useful, and it saves you hours of time obviously working out material lists, because the software has done it here for you itself. If I go to the quotes and outputs, you can see the software can do your quote for your estimate, and software obviously can, on top of that, if I go to the Smart Scheduler, if I go to the material by order date report, like so, it will tell me what I need to order, like so, what the item is, the quantity is needed, and of course the order by date to have it on site in time for your requirement for it on site. Because of course the software has the timescale required for each of the materials or the delivery timescales. So it's created the report for you to tell you when to order the materials. You don't have to manually work this out. The software has done it for you. So it's created a 6-page report with all that information on it for you. And it does that for all your materials, all your labour, all your plant, all your subcontractors, and your sundry items as well. It also has a material order report, which condenses the information down into a more slimline report. And once again, you can see the order by date, when it's required on site, what the item is, the product code if it has one, and the order quantity needed. So the software really is doing all the thinking here for you. It's incredibly useful and it's incredibly streamlined. It's designed to take the hard work that you used to have to manually do, and it does it for you. And of course, an estimate wouldn't be complete without a quote for the job at hand, a quote for the main estimate. So I'll go to quote for main estimate, like so. Once the main quote appears, the main estimate here, you will see it has taken the details for the client and it has placed them onto the quote for us. So I can scroll down a little here and you'll see the software has created a letter thanking the client for their quotation request. Of course, this letter itself can be adjusted. It can be replaced with one of your own writing. And of course, any of the details showing on this entire quote can be adjusted to as you see fit. So any of the details in terms of the cover page, the letter, any assumption and omissions, any provisional sums, obviously the summaries, breakdown and a quote acceptance, all of this information that you will see as I scroll down can be adjusted using the settings controls here on the right hand side. So I'll scroll down a little further and you'll see the software will build up, in terms of build phase order, the quote that we've just run through. And as you may note, anything that you can see here on screen can be adjusted. This paragraph can be adjusted. We can adjust it here and that information will then adjust onto the quote here itself. The images, these icons, can be adjusted. We can tell the software whether to include obviously the various resources. So if we're including the materials, the labour, the plant and so on. And this applies to every single aspect of this quotation. We can quite literally make the quote itself appear and look, in terms of detail, as much or as little as we see fit. Any of the text, any of the paragraphs can be adjusted. Any of the logos can be replaced. Essentially, we can make the quote appear as we see fit. And because the software is intelligent, it will remember that information next time we come into the job at hand. You won't need to keep on replacing the information you've removed over and over. The software remembers it for you. As you can see, the software has generated a 24-page quote based upon the small amount of information that we keyed in to the dimension wizards as we ran through the quote. So as I scroll down, you'll see an amazing amount of data that has been generated. Of course, as I say though, all this information can be adjusted. We can increase or decrease the level of data that is shown on the quotation. All the icons, all the paragraphs, as I've previously said, can be adjusted. So as you may imagine, the software quickly and easily will generate your quotes. And of course, I would imagine it would amaze your clients. So this is exactly what the software has created based on the information that we keyed in as we've run through this estimate here. Of course, it gives us a summary for the job at hand, and it breaks it down also even further down into materials, into labour, into plant, and of course we have the acceptance of the estimate. There's one for you and there's one for your client there as well. And of course, if I scroll down a little further too, you then get the terms and conditions that you can preload. Simply the software has remembered the information I previously entered in there, so it's created this terms and conditions section for us based upon the previous terms and conditions I had entered. Of course, that can be obviously your terms and conditions. I've merely included that so you can see the software can include all the details, all the information, all the terms and conditions as you may require for the jobs that you run through. Thank you for watching.